your team, if you're already in business, talking about point Z, right? So you're at point A, and you're having all these thoughts about point Z. Well, doggone it, if I'm in the room, I'm going to be pressing you, how do we get to point B, right? Because if you can't get to point B, then the Z that you're daydreaming about isn't practical. It'll never happen. You got to get from A to B, and that's with paying customers, okay? That's what makes it real. All right, so trusted. 2011 is when I, did all the paperwork. We went operational 2013. So we had no revenue. Then this year we're going to do $141 million in revenue. Crazy story, right? You see this big, nothing to a whole lot of millions of dollars in revenue. Well, the way we did it, I was actually working at the time, is I found out about this opportunity to bid on a big contract, which is the business that we're in now. And it's competitive, and we compete with the biggest companies in the world: United Healthcare, Aetna, Humana, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, all of them. And they were incumbents at the time. And so how do you beat an incumbent, right? How do you outperform your competitor? How do you make your offering more compelling than these multi-billion-dollar companies that have been doing it forever? Well, it's actually not that difficult. You have to sell the customer on what they want, though they may not really be that clear of what that is yet. But you're going to sell them on what they want, right? And you find out what they want through research, right? Like anything, you're in school, you got to do your homework. Do your research on your industry, whatever product and service. Do research on the industry and where it's going. There are white papers out there, believe me. There's a lot of research you can do online. And once you figure out where the industry is going, that's where decision makers want to go. But they may be clear of what the picture actually looks like. So you're going to create the picture for them. And that's what we did in D.C. I spent a year. I did all the homework you could imagine. I figured out the district's health care issues of each member that was on Medicaid in the district by segment of the city. There are 8 wards. In every ward, I could figure out how many healthcare providers there were, how many folks had this disease, that disease, everything from infant mortality rates to folks with diabetes, type 1, type 2. I had it all figured out. Then I put together specific plans on how to address all those issues, again, segmented by portion of the city. And that's what the industry wanted, right? Because that's what the industry wanted. And so I did all the homework, and I put it together in a very pretty package, and that's how I sold it. So we had nothing. We started off with $100 million in revenue, all right? Next, if you're already in business, if you're going to go into business, I am going to warn you about keeping your eyes on your costs. Revenue is one thing. There are a lot of companies, as a matter of fact, before we took over as a provider of Medicaid managed care in D.C., United Healthcare was there, and they were losing tens of millions of dollars a year on the same business. Same people, same business, they're losing tens of millions of dollars a year, and we're profitable, all right? The difference is they had no real focus on the cost of providing the service. You have to be cost-focused, all right? If you have a big business, a small business, cost, cost, cost. If you're going to go into business, don't spend too much money going into business. Go in as cheap as you possibly can. You don't want to personally guarantee a lease. You don't want to have a big place. You want to start small, all right? I got a friend of mine, we're not that close of a friend, but a guy I met a few weeks ago. He got his mother to put up $500,000, entire life savings, to open up a coffee shop, a franchise in Florida, in Jupiter. So they spend the family's purse on the coffee shop franchise. Within a year, they lost it all gone, right? But I'm thinking, and she personally guaranteed the lease. They built out this beautiful coffee shop, had all the best equipment, and it just didn't work. Don't risk your money that way. And if everyone here appears to be an adult, so you may have a family or you have adult responsibilities, you don't want to put all your life on the line financially for a dream. You want to, but you got to take baby steps, right? It's so important. In those baby steps, you manage your costs. I can't emphasize that enough. Manage your costs going into business and once you're in business. As a $140 million company, I have vendors coming to me personally every day. They want to sell me this. They want to sell me that. This is better than this. They're going to save me money. They're going to make me money. Well, guess what? I'm doing just fine. All right? My business is doing just fine. If you want to save me some, if you want to deliver me a product, you show me how I'm going to save money for every dollar I spend to you. And you got to prove it. So if somebody comes to sell you something, my advice, even if it's just to negotiate, first answer is no, I don't need it. Doing just fine, right? Don't spend money on things you don't need to spend money on. Don't do it. Again, you have revenue as your top line, but doggone it, you better have some bottom line, and that's your profit. And the only thing that kills your profit are too high costs, and that includes people as well. All right? Keep that in mind. All right, so once you're in business, you got to develop a high-performing culture, and that culture starts with you. That's Michael Jackson up there, the man in the mirror. I'm sure everyone remembers that song. It's all about you. You are your culture, right? Are you hardworking? Are you focused? Do you have integrity? Do you communicate transparently? If that's what you want from your people, you have to be the first to do it. And I think as important to all those traits, are you vulnerable with your team? That's how you get loyalty. That's how you get openness, is when you're yourself vulnerable to having maybe not even the second best idea, but the worst idea in the room. Be open to it, all right? Very, very important. And demand from yourself what you want from others. So the attributes I just talked about, if you want people working hard, if you want people managing your purse, they work for you, which means they're spending your money. You want them to treat your money like it's their money. You want them managing costs. So you have to do the same. All right, this is a big one here. I actually probably should put this at the top. Underestimate everything. You got that up top? Underestimate everything. Because everything is doable. If anyone were to say that a company like ours could go in, and matter of fact, I was living in Detroit when we won the DC contract against United. United had a contract, we won, they're out. Molina is a publicly traded $15 billion a year company. We beat them. Blue Cross, we beat everybody. And it was just me. Just me with this great proposal I spent a year putting together, right? Because I underestimated what it would take to win the business and deliver the business. I had no idea. And then once we won it, we really didn't have the money. I had to raise another few $1 million. I had to hire 50 people in 2 weeks. Had to build all these systems, put all these vendors in place. But I did it because I had this contract, right? But the only reason I went after it is because I underestimated what it took to win it and operationalize it. If you view the world the way corporate America, no offense, views it, it would say what you're trying to do is impossible to be successful. But that is not true. Okay? Underestimate it, and you'll get it done. If you start viewing it like everybody else or overestimating what it's going to take, you'll never get off the blocks. All right? Underestimate everything. All right. So here's something. Let's do a show of hands. So how many people in the room would consider themselves passive? Just as a personality type. A passive person. We got one passive. See, he wouldn't even put his hand all the way up. Come on, passive, man. A couple. All right, a few, okay. I'm seeing some passives, and be open. You got to be honest with yourself, right? And you can answer this question to yourself, too, if you don't want to have your hand up as being passive. How many people view themselves as aggressive, truly aggressive people? Pretty good. All right. How many passive-aggressive? Self-admitted passive-aggressive. All right, I like it. All right. So there are always some averages, but I'm going to throw some out there. Usually, if you had any chart, 20% of people are going to be truly passive, all right? Another 20% are going to be truly aggressive. The man has on a red shirt, I believe him, all right? But then most people are probably in a passive-aggressive role for the most part, right? So they want something, they hear no, they're going to figure out how to get to yes anyway. They're kind of passive-aggressive. My recommendation to everyone in this room, and it is something that I learned in my career over the past 3 years, because my original business partner is the complex chairman of complex litigation for an international law firm, all right? He would litigate me at every conversation, and I was always wrong, and I was the dumbest person. I was the worst person, right? He would beat me down, beat. But what I learned from that experience is it made me sharper, and it made me start to push back, right, and fight for what I thought to be right. It's taken me very far in just a few years by deliberately deciding I'm not going to be passive-aggressive anymore. And believe me, I was probably one of the best passive-aggressives out there. I was going to move from passive-aggressive to aggressive. Doggone it, this is what I think, this is what we're going to do, and we will battle it all day and all night long. The beauty of being aggressive is that it's pure, right? Where you're coming from is pure, and if people don't have the gall to challenge you back with the same purity, then they didn't really believe in what they were saying anyway. So you're right. And if they do, that's good. You're going to get to the right place, right? Being aggressive is not being a bully, right? But it's pushing hard. But once you get to the right answer, be vulnerable enough to see the right answer and move forward in that direction. All right. So, these critters up here. All right. When you have a business or you're developing a business, you're going to come across some rats and some roaches. I'm going to tell you a story about when I moved from Detroit to Washington, D.C., because we won this huge contract, and my wife was pregnant, had a young son, and we had to find a place to live. We had 2 months. So my wife comes to D.C., she's trying to figure it out in the weekend, and she finds a place that costs $5,400 a month in rent. $5,400 a month in rent. We were living in a suburb of Detroit, half an acre on the water for $1,900 a month in rent. So we went 2.5 times that amount in rent. And I wasn't making that much more money. We didn't even have a revenue yet. I mean, really almost destroyed our marriage. I mean, every month we had to write the check, our marriage was on the brink. I couldn't believe it, but we did it because she forced us to. And the only good thing about it, and it was on Embassy Row in D.C., and the only good thing about it is when people come to town, I'd be driving to my row house, and I would say, hey, I live on Embassy Row, right? That's all I got for my $5,400 a month in rent. So we get into this row house, we're here, and so one day, my wife comes home, she sends me a picture on my cell phone of an apple, which is on the counter, and something had been eaten on the apple, pretty aggressively. And she says, uh-oh, we have a mouse in the house. And we've seen a couple mice. But this time the mouse actually was on the countertop. And we had young kids, very unsettling. So I'm the man, I got to fix it, right? So I had to come fix the mouse issue. So I come home, I say, that's okay, I'm going to go get some traps. We'll take care of this mouse. So I go to Home Depot, come back. They have these little black strips with like some glue on top. The mouse, you put something to entice it, the mouse comes across, it gets stuck, put a garbage bag or whatever you choose to do, you're done with it. So I lay the traps out, right? I'm going to take care of the mouse tonight. Next morning, come downstairs, and by the way, to entice it, I put an apple, another fresh apple, right on the trap. Come downstairs to get my mouse, and the entire strip is ripped apart, and half the apple has been eaten. Aggressive mouse, right? I'm still convinced it's a mouse. So I call Orkin guy. Orkin guy comes in. He's looking around. He's making these faces. Ooh. I said, so it must be a big mouse, huh? He says, yeah, pretty big one. Yeah, I'll take care of it. So he does some stuff, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I got it under control. Whatever he did, it's going to work. A couple days later, going downstairs for some ice cream, and I see a mouse that wasn't a mouse. This sucker was this big. A rat in the house. A rat in the house. All up and down the house, on the countertop. I mean, who knows where the rat has been? This house. It was a rat. It was like the rat's house, right? So then I knew I had a problem, and I was going to address the problem. So I had an all hands on deck discussion the next day. The same guy from Oregon was back. His boss was back. A contractor that fixes homes was in the house. And we said, we're going to fix the problem. No rats in the house. We're going to figure out where the rat is coming in, and we're going to close the hole or whatever's happening. Coming to find out, it's coming through the floorboards. We shut it down, no more rat, okay? My point is this. In your organization, whether it's entrepreneurial or where you work, you may have a rat in the house. And rats, unlike mice, are hard to get rid of because rats are big. A rat may be an executive. A rat may be a business partner. If you have a rat in the house, if you have any sense that there could be a rat in the house, you got to get rid of that rat immediately, all right? Immediately. And it's hard to get rid of a rat. You know why? Because they're executives, right? They're high level. They're hard. So HR doesn't want to get rid of your rat. They don't want to deal with the rat. It's like the Orkin guy the first day. Oh, yeah, I'll do something. He didn't do anything, right? That's HR, possibly, right? That's another business partner. That is the voice inside you that really doesn't have the guts to do it. That's your business partner or your investor that's saying, no, it's too much risk to deal with deal with this executive. Maybe don't have he or she over here. Give them some other responsibilities, right? But if the rat's in your house, you don't want them in this room versus the other room. You want them out the house. You do what you have to do to get that rat up out of your house. Immediately, rat got to go, okay? Another story, true story. So a good friend of mine is a politician, and he was running for political office. So I decided I was going to go down and help him out. And so as help, I was going to be a part of his campaign headquarters. I was going to go to people's door, knock on the door, pass out flyers, be in the streets helping them. And one of the responsibilities that I was given this day was to drive people from senior housing to go vote. The whole idea is if the candidate is driving you to the poll, you are supposed to vote for that candidate. And that's kind of right? And so I was representing the candidate, and so that was my job for the day. So I took someone's car, and I got this guy, an older gentleman, drove him to the precinct. He gets out, and as soon as he gets out, I look over before I get out to close the door, and there's a roach sitting on the passenger seat. It must just fell out of his pocket. I don't know. Cockroach, the Florida-type roaches, right? What do you call them? Palmetto bugs, big ones. And so for some reason, maybe it's because I'm driving the older gentleman, I'm feeling spiritual, right? I don't want to kill the roach. I'm just going to flick the roach out the car, right? So I get my flyer, and I go to flick it, and doggone that roach underneath the seat, missed it. So now I'm like, oh, gosh. I got to go find the roach, right? So get out, get on the other side, and I'm looking for the roach. I look under the seat, above the seat, all over the car. Can't find the roach. So, and again, it's not my car. I drove someone else's car. So I got to take the car back. And I'm just perplexed. What am I going to do? I got this roach in the car, and I'm scared to drive the car with the roach in the car because I know myself. I mean, could be like a hazard on the highway. If I'm driving and the roach ends up on the top of my head or somewhere, anything can happen. I mean, what a distraction to have. So my solution is I'm getting this car. I'm going to drive it to the headquarters, get the keys to whoever owns the car, and I'll be done, and let them deal with the roach if the roach ever reappears. So that's what I do. Get back in the driver's seat. I go for a drive. And it's funny because as I was thinking about this story last night, just replaying it to myself, I realized I never picked the older gentleman back up to take him to his place. I left him at the voting booth. So anyway, but I'm driving. So I'm driving, and I'm so scared, right? I'm driving, and I pull off the freeway. So on the freeway and off, and as soon as I go to make the left on the main street to get to the campaign headquarters, out of my periphery, I see the roach. You think this time I tried to scoot out the car? Bang! Smashed the roach juice all on my forearm. I didn't care. I had to get rid of the roach. And I did. And so my point to you is, if you have a roach in your car, get rid of the roach the first time. Don't let the roach stay. Because as you know, roaches can multiply. Roaches can end up anywhere. In that case, could have caused a car accident. So get rid of roaches immediately. All right? This is it. I just want to ask by show of hands, who's already an entrepreneur? Hands up, please. Oh, good. Who is an aspiring entrepreneur? All right, good. Okay. My take-home message is this. Either you are or you are not an entrepreneur. Okay? The difference between someone that is and someone that is not is action. Do you have your business plan on paper? Do you have your finance plan set aside? If you're going to lease a space, do you have your lease figured out? If you're going to have a product, who's going to make the product? What's the cost going to be? For you, what's the price to your end customer? Who's your first customer? How are you going to get that person or company as a customer? Action. I actually think most people would say that they're an aspiring entrepreneur. Most people aren't actually going to be an entrepreneur because they won't do the work, the hard work, the fun work, the name, the paperwork, the blah, blah, blah. The hard part, putting that thing on paper and getting into action. So, that's all I have. I hope this was helpful. And I'm going to be here for a couple hours. If you have any questions that are more targeted to your specific situation, please let me know. And again, Quint, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, Tommy. You know, one of the things, reason I wanted Tommy to come, first, I love his story. I see him in action once every 3 months, and then we're on the phone, and he walks the talk. And if you meet his people, they're passionate people. They're just passionate people about what they do, and always trying to get better. But I have another thought why I was here. You know, we have a tremendous challenge of poverty in our community. We have a tremendous problem with health care in our community, particularly for people that, don't have the funds. And I hope someday our community can look at somebody like Tommy to bring him in to put programs in. The other thing he didn't get a chance to talk about is the investment they've made in Washington, D.C. Can you just talk a little bit real quick about your wellness center that you put in? Because it's sort of a unique thing that many companies like you haven't done. And we got a few minutes. Can you just tell them about the wellness center you put in Washington, D.C.?
I'd love to. So back to having a differentiator. You have to be very different and sell the industry on what it wants. What I learned about our industry is what it wanted was a heavy emphasis on outreach. So actually reaching these members and getting them into healthcare. And so as a part of our differentiator, we create a plan to build health and wellness outreach centers in the communities that we serve. These are places where people can come in, our members, and have exercise twice a week, yoga twice a week, healthy cooking demonstrations twice a week, targeted diabetes education, one-on-one and group classes, pediatric asthma classes, and all of these things focus on wellness. And to the surprise of many, a lot of our members use that service. And so we opened up a second center. And again, we have a lot of folks into wellness now because we created these brick and mortar centers in their communities. To give you a sense of not only did this help get people engaged in healthcare, it reduced our costs and made us more profitable. So we took a sampling of people that had been in the ER at least 4 times for 12 months before their first visit to our wellness center. And those people had an average of 5.3 ER visits. Same group, after they visit our wellness center, had an average of 2 the next 12 months. So in our business where the less people use expensive health care, the more profitable we are, it was a very smart investment. And that's why we're duplicating it wherever we operate.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the other thing that does is particularly for people that are in dire financial straits, they can't go maybe join a class of yoga. They can't maybe go and take their children to certain places because financially they just can't afford it. Or they don't feel comfortable. So they feel all alone. And I think what Tommy's and Tommy D's Wellness Center has, and they don't name it Tommy D's, do you?
No. Not doing that again. No.
Yeah. And what it does is it gives you that sense of belonging. You're not in this alone. And all of a sudden you're doing things that you see on TV or you see other people doing, and all of a sudden you can do that now. You can go to that diabetes education program and be with other people that are over maybe not in great shape. You know, I always say, when people used to tell me to go work out, I wanted to know, is there a place to work out before you go work out? Because, you know, I don't know about you, but I went to a workout place one time and I was intimidated. I mean, these people were serious. I mean, they're running on treadmills and I'm figuring out how to turn it on. You know, and I think what this does is it creates a sense of belonging. I'm not in this alone. And also what, of course, it does, it creates healthier people, particularly women and children. So let's give Tommy Duncan one more great round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.